Dr. Jazz.
Cool. Thanks for finding the time. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I like doing these things. I'm glad that the technology is where we can, you know,
Yeah,
have this go across the internet and Zoom connects us and all that. It's great.
yeah. I started doing it during COVID, and now I feel like it's like a mission to create an archive of all the players. I mean, all of as much players as I can, that they talk about their art and how they compose, and for the future
Oh yeah.
generations and everyone. I hope, and now, so I think it's a nice thing.
Hmm. Oh, definitely, definitely.
But I'll just jump in, and I wanted to ask you. I really loved Blue Vision, and I wanted to
Mm.
start this talk like what's been happening on the Department of Band Leading, and if you've been planning something new or
Yeah, I would, I'm thoroughly engaged with my art. So I'm always kind of, planning some things. And actually, I'm going to be re-releasing this year my eighth CD, which was called Rhythm Edge.
okay.
And yeah, so I'm going to be real. I don't know if you've heard that, but
That one I don't.
yeah, I feel it's one of my best
Ah, shit, I have to find it. Okay, cool.
CDs. Yeah, yeah. But okay, I tell you what, wait till the new one comes out because I really put a lot of time in re-editing or editing and remixing it
Ah,
because as good as the music was, I always had a little bit of issues with some of the mixes. And so yeah, I'm gonna re-release Rhythm Edge. It'll be out by June.
oh, fantastic. Okay.
And another project, I'm just kind of still in the discussion stages. It's going to be new music, but it's going to be produced by the great Houston Person.
Okay.
And yeah, so yeah, we have a project together called Person to Person. And so he's going to produce that for me, and I'm looking forward to it. Actually, we talked probably about 2 hours ago and talked a little bit about personnel and stuff like that. So
Oh,
yeah.
beautiful.
Actually, the thing going back to Rhythm Edge is kind of like the first of a number of my CDs I'll be re-releasing over the next few years. I'll start with Rhythm Edge and I'll kind of work backwards a little bit. One I call The Grand Illusion.
Yeah. No.
That's yeah, I'm gonna re-release that one with a new name and some added tracks and some edits and just so okay. Let me continue. And I have another CD, Thoughts on God, which was my big band. I'll probably do that and then probably end with, or I guess I would end with Extra Pressure. So
Yeah.
people who don't know my music, they'll be able to hear it, I think, presented in the best way. And it'll be out on all the platforms and AI algorithms can kind of say, oh, this guy's got new music. Okay, great. Let's, pump his whole catalog up. And I think that's how it works now. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of being proactive with my art, trying to get new fans and just do the best for the music. So
Yeah. So no, you've done so much work, and it's nice that, to do that now. It's a different world than it was, like, I guess, mid 90s or late 90s. Like, it's like Bandcamp and all this streaming stuff, and so it's good that you get it out there. Like also, again, so it's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, one of the best things, and I want to uh, just put it out in a way that being an artist that owns his own on his masters is real important. It's more important now than ever because you want to be able to move out here with a good level of freedom. I'm able to go and take my masters and edit them in a way that I feel is in line with my career path, or how people listen to music now. If you're on a label, and whether it's a major label or a small label, if you say, hey, I want to re-release my record that I put out 17 years ago or 20 years ago, and I want to do some edits, and I want to, add some unreleased tracks, they'll be like, we don't moved on, who are you again? It could be all kinds of responses that, that don't gel with where you're at as an artist. And so I remember when I did my first record on my own label, it was like a new thing back in 1999. Yeah. And my first releases were on Soul Note Records. And I remember for the first one, I was really excited.
For Arrival, or
what's that?
For Arrival, or
yes,
yeah. I love that one. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So I did that, but and then I did another one called Prophecy, and then I did the third one, which was called More Tales to Tell. But by the time I got to More Tales to Tell, I was starting to be like, hey man, I'm on a label, but it doesn't feel like I'm on a label. So I remember I asked Flavio Bonandrini, who was running the label at the time, I said, hey, can you send me a list of the radio stations and press that you sent the CD to? And he did, but it only took up one sheet of paper on the front. And I was just like, man, this is not happening. This is ridiculous. So that was one of the things that inspired me to like take control and start my own label. And you take the good with the bad, but if you're committed to your art, your music, and your career, you stay in it and keep it going as long as you feel connected.
Yeah. No, now it's easier. I think it's easier. I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly, but I also did like records on labels, and I feel like I will not name them, but like you just they don't do so much work getting reviews unless you're like, I don't know, on Blue Note or Verve or something. But so it's easier to put it on your own. I mean, it takes more work, obviously, and sending emails and packages, but still, it's kind of, you do it for yourself, right? It's more rewarding in a sense. I don't know.
I think, it is more rewarding. And I think I see a lot of musicians on Facebook and stuff inciting, all these reasons not to release music. And, it's like 100,000 songs uploaded a day, and your music might not ever be heard and everything. And I thought about all these different posts that guys were having, and I said, they're finding all these ways to not release music, and I think in the end you have to be, you have to do it for yourself first. Like you have to know the intrinsic value of your own music and for putting out music and whatever that does. And if it's worth that to you, just to put the effort out there to record, to get the musicians to, select really great tunes, then that has value in and of itself. If you don't see the value in that, I say don't release any more music. And that will cut down on a lot of this music that's out here, because it's just, you have to find the value for yourself first, and then you can think about the audience, and what you're trying to do beyond just releasing that music.
Yeah, it's also important that you as an artist document where you are, right? I mean, that's why we do it that's so important, I think, like nowadays, just already for yourself, just okay, shit, I did this, I wrote that, and I think that's a nice one. Yeah. So important.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes I'll think about certain things I might have released, and I might have said, the way I think now, I wouldn't do that. But it's good that at least you did it, because it is, like you say, a marker.
Yeah.
And you can always say, hey, I learned from that. part of this is just the process of learning from what you're doing, the rights and wrongs, but it is documented. You learn from it, you move on.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And also, if you're on your own, there's no limit in a sense that, you can do one record every 2 years or whatever. You can do 3 records a year if you want or whatever. It's like,
oh yeah,
that's great, especially I think Bandcamp, like the way I see it now, it's really good because you build up a community. And I mean, it's so far the best option we have out there as independent artists, I think, like, until something better pops up, I guess, but we'll see.
Yeah. We were waiting for that.
Yeah. But Eric, how was it for you when you were, if we fly back, I don't know, mid-70s, late 70s, and nowadays kids are like, or teenagers who want to discover jazz, it's like just too much out there. You go on Spotify and that's like 60,000 artists and all the albums. Like, what got you excited for jazz, I guess, in the 70s, late 70s, or did you hear a certain record or concert, or like, was there a moment?
Well, my father, he was a saxophonist, and he started me out playing. And actually, he took me to my first concert. So the first club concert I went to was at a club in St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And it was called the Moose Lounge. And so they probably had music every night, but I remember him taking me to see some different local musicians. And that really kind of started the ball rolling. But then he took me to see a Count Basie concert, Count Basie Orchestra. And actually, St. Louis's own tenor saxophonist, Jimmy Forrest, was in the band.
Yeah.
And I still remember that to this day, how great the orchestra was. Butch Miles was the drummer. He was a dynamic, great big band drummer. Freddie Green was playing guitar player.
Ooh, really? Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, I got a chance to talk to him because like back then, even more so now, I'll still go up and talk to musicians. But I went on stage and I started talking to him, and I remember I said, Freddie, why didn't you take any solos? And he was like, well, that's not my role. So it was cool. I had a book at the time, which I had all these signatures from.
Oh wow, man. Okay.
Yeah. He probably signed. I have to find that book. It's somewhere in my mother's house in St. Louis. But yeah, my father taking me to these concerts. I wound up seeing Count Basie actually 3 times. And it was a ship, a very large ship in St. Louis that used to be docked on the waterfront called the Admiral. And I went and saw Count Basie there. And then I saw James Moody there. And so, yeah, it was just a lot of live music in St. Louis. And my father was a big part of taking me around. And I would sit in at different places. And that Moose Lounge I mentioned earlier, I got to the point where I was doing a duo with a guitarist in between the sets of the bands that were booked there. And so that was just kind of stoking things up for me. I was, a big record collector, and I took over my father's record collection, and I was reading liner notes and all that stuff, and that was getting me stoked for ultimately coming to New York.
What was the main trigger to move to New York? Well, when did you decide that?
I think I actually went to a Jamie Aebersold jazz camp. I think it was at the end of my sophomore year in high school. And Arnie Lawrence, a great saxophonist, he had came to my high school, did a workshop, and he also was instrumental in getting me an award that was a scholarship to the Jamie Aebersold camp. And so there I met all these great guys. James Williams, he was the pianist. He was my combo instructor. Oh. And so him being there, and Dave Liebman, a lot of guys like Todd Kuhlman, Ed Soph, just a boatload of really great musicians and stuff. It just kept, germinating the idea that I wanted to be around musicians who were playing on a high level. So that I think that was one of the big moments for me at that time, late 70s.
Was it heavy for you when you came to New York? I mean, what were I know when I check the records I have you on, like obviously there's like Ronald Shannon Jackson and Chico Hamilton like are the first, but like how was it like for you when you came to New York? What were the first gigs you got and the people you met actually before Chico? I wanted to ask you about Chico, how you got the gig actually also, but
well, actually I was fortunate enough to come to New York with a little bit of a gig because I had met John Hicks, the great pianist, and I had some tunes that I was going to record and make a demo before I moved to New York. And so I went and heard John Hicks perform with Betty Carter. And I just talked to him. I said, hey, John, I got these tunes. I would love to, play them with you. And so he invited me over to the house where he was staying. And so we went through the tunes. It was 4 tunes of mine. And he liked the tunes. I guess he liked what I was doing. And he said, I told him that I was moving to New York. And he said, well, I have a big band I'm starting. And he said, I would love, would you like to play? And I was like, yeah, So I told him I was coming in May. And I guess the first performance of that band was going to be in June. Let's just say June or whatever. And so I did those performances at it was 2 nights at the Public Theater, Joseph Papp's Public Theater. So that was great. So I came up with, immersing myself, rubbing shoulders with great guys like Bobby Watson and Jim Pepper.
Really? Oh man, okay.
Yeah, Jim Pepper's a great player. Just so many guys. And so that was, for me, the beginning that wound up, things kind of caught on for me kind of quickly because I tried to, hang with, musicians and go to the clubs and everything. And I remember what happened was like a year and a half after I got into New York. I was invited to a house party of Oliver Lakes. And so at this house party was the saxophonist who was playing with Chico at the time, a guy named Marty Ehrlich.
Yeah.
And so we were just talking. I never knew Marty, but he actually was from St. Louis. And so we were talking, and he was like, hey man, I've worked with this guy, Chico Hamilton, this drummer, And he was like, I'm actually kind of ready to lead a gig. Do you want it? I was like, do I want it? Of course, yeah, definitely. And so he gave Chico my number. Chico called me probably about a day or so later. And I went over to Chico's house, auditioned for him, played a little bit of his music. He liked me. He liked what I was doing at the time. And so that kind of started me working with Chico. And that was like in September of 1983.
Well, already, okay.
And yeah, other than working with Chico, I was just, working a day job. I was working at a place in the village called the Riviera Cafe. I was a prep cook. And so I would go there and, but I was still hanging out. I was sitting in and everything. And I actually knew Joe Ford, the saxophonist who worked with McCoy Tyner. And he told me to come up to Harlem. He was working with this violin player named Akbar Ali. And so he said, yeah, come on up, check out the music, meet the cats, and maybe you can sit in or whatever. So I brought my horn. And so went up there, played we played at Small's Paradise, a place up there. And so I played, and later Akbar told me that when the spot opened up in Ronald Shannon Jackson's group, I was the first one that he thought of. So I want to join in that group or Shannon's band in what was it? April.
Wow.
End of March, I did the first rehearsals. Wow. And then we were going to tour the Midwest for a week. And so actually the first gig we did, I remember this because Shannon told us we've been rehearsing. It was kind of like a cram job. Like when I got the call, when Akbar, because I gave him my number that night, I played. When he called me, he said, "Hey man, the gig is open up with Shannon." And so I went down to J&R Music because I never heard of Ronald Shannon Jackson. So I went down to J&R Music. I bought a copy of Man Dance. That was I think that was Shannon's latest CD release. So because I bought it in a cassette. So I went in J&R, bought the cassette. I had my little Walkman. So I came out of the store. I put the cassette in there, and I was listening. I was just like, what is this? It was totally new to me, And but I've always been open in music, I've always been kind of curious. And so I was like, okay, well, it's a paying gig, man. It's like I want to check it out alone. So I made all these rehearsals, I learned all these tunes, and we left to go out on the first gig that we were doing. It was in Ann Arbor. And we met Shannon at probably like 5 a.m. at the music business building in Manhattan. And I remember that was the day that it was April 1st. And that was the day that Marvin Gaye was killed. Because I remember, because we all met, and it was just like, hey man, did you hear what happened? I was like, no, what happened? Marvin Gaye was killed. It was like, oh man. So that was a weird thing that was put out there. But we drove to Ann Arbor and had a great tour. Vernon Reid was in that band at the time. And it was a great band, actually. Ronald Shannon Jackson, Bruce Johnson, Reverend Bruce Johnson on bass, Vernon Reid, myself. It was a 5-piece band, and Akbar Ali.
Yeah.
So that was actually the first of a couple of bands I was in with Shannon, or for a couple of versions of Decode Yourself, that is.
How are these guys different, like as band leaders, Chico and Ronald? I mean, if you compare them, and what their music is completely different, obviously, and their energy, at least what I listen to the music, recorded music, but like your experience playing with those two guys, and what have you learned from them as band leaders? I mean,
Shannon was a very creative guy in terms of like his compositions, how he was coming up with his music. He usually came up with his different beats, and then he came up with different melodies on the flute. He didn't do it on keyboard and all that stuff. So he was creating, and he liked to rehearse a lot. So once we came to the rehearsal studio, he usually had some sheets of some melodies he was working on. So we would put them on the music stand and basically interpret what was on the page, because it didn't have any real note values. It was mainly just like very basic. So a lot of those melodies you hear on some of those records, it's like, I don't want to say like we kind of compose those tunes, but it is a certain amount of collaborative effort, because like, let's say he put the music down, we put the music down in front of us, and then we're playing the melodies. If he liked how we were doing it, then that stayed. If he didn't, he might say, okay, I think that's cool, but maybe you all could like make that after that one note, that's the first phrase, and then okay. it's some simple things he might say, but he usually didn't say anything because I was the one usually leading the other instruments that I was going to play the melodies. So I kind of consider myself as an interpreter of what he was giving us, you know, if I'm saying that correctly. Yeah. I'm not trying to take any credit from Shannon. I'm just saying it was very skeletal, like what he put in front of us, and it was up to us to kind of mold it. And even, you know, whoever was playing in the rhythm section, he would play his thing, and then he would basically say, "Hey man, whatever you hear." He might not had an idea for the bass. You know, he might have, you know, he might hear you play something while you were warming up and say, "Hey man, that'll go good under the new tune we've been working on." You know, those kind of guys. But that's kind of how a lot of those tunes kind of formulated, and that made it very organic. Yeah. As far as Chico, you know, he never worked like that. He usually had some simple tunes that he might have composed, but they were all kind of very, yeah, I'll just say simpler melodies. Yeah. They could be a variety of different styles, and he liked to play a lot of our tunes too. So I had a few of my tunes in the book, and but he was always very generous. Chico was very generous to be like, "Hey, you know, we're going to record something. Hey, how about bringing in a tune?" And Shannon was not like that. It was really basically, you know, his tunes, and, you know, his direction and whatever. So I personally didn't get any tunes of mine recorded, and I was actually feverishly working on new music at that time. But I did record a few of mine with Chico.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. How you mentioned an arrival. I mean, we talked about it before. And speaking of your tunes, and how did that one come up then? How did you decide to do that record and become a band leader? I mean, did you lead bands already in the 80s? Like, because this one is like, I think 92 or 93, but
yeah. Well, you know, I really think although I didn't know it at the time, I was doing things that was basically preparing me for having a record, whether, you know, I released it on my own or whether I was going to pick it up. Probably two parts of this. So the first was that when I was with Shannon, I had acquired a Fostex X15 recorder, and so I was recording like every night when I wasn't gigging or hanging out or whatever. I was at home working into the late hours of the night on new tunes, and, you know, discovering, you know, the synthesizer, drum machine, and kind of what I wanted to release as a leader. And so I did that for many years. Actually, I probably started in 84 or 80, 84, and continued that kind of thing probably like up to like 2000 or 2001. But yeah, a lot of that music I was doing when I first got it wound up becoming Arrival. And actually, I did a demo at a place called the Center for the Media Arts, and this kind of got my feet wet in terms of working in the studio. And so I was kind of moving slowly to making that happen. And then the other side of it was that I was beating the pavement, like trying to get a deal. Like I was going up to, I remember at the time, Antilles Records, Blue Note. You know, I was trying to meet people on major labels and stuff like that. It didn't happen, but Jeffrey Caddick, who was Chico's manager while I was in his band, I guess he helped broker a deal with Chico recording for Soul Note. And that's how I ultimately got on Soul Note. He said, "Hey man, are you ready to do something? And I said, oh yeah, most definitely. And so we kind of talked about recording. I just wish it was kind of actually a little backwards because I recorded my second CD first, or Prophecy was recorded first, and that was going to be released first. And I had another version of it, but then the label said, hey, I think it'd be better if you have maybe a band record first, which should have been said first to me, but it is what it is. But so Prophecy was recorded first, but released second.
Second, yeah.
Then I recorded Arrival, and that was released, and then Prophecy came out, and then More Tales from Tales. So
interesting.
Yeah, everything was kind of moving towards me being a leader,
Yeah.
So
was it heavy for you in the beginning to lead a band? Was it heavy for you in the beginning? I mean, to have, I mean, the band is incredible with Kenny Davis and, Michael Caine, and I think Ronnie is on drums there.
Oh, yeah, Ronnie Barrage, yeah.
It's like a monster band. Like, how was it for you, like, to be in the studio with those guys, and why those guys, actually? I mean, Kerry makes sense because of Chico, but...
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I had worked with Kenny Davis, and I knew Ronnie Barrage, since I came to New York. And Michael Caine, I actually I heard one of his records, and I liked what he was playing, and I thought it was a really good vibe that would really be good for what I was doing. And I might have later discovered that he also did keyboards and everything, but I liked his piano playing. So I think one thing kind of led to another, and I thought these guys would play well together. So that's how it came about.
Yeah.
I'm into really listening for whether musicians can really work together to make something be cohesive, and not just that, okay, we're just playing this style together, whatever, but like that their styles really mesh well with another. Like I wouldn't put a conservative player in that company. Everybody was pretty progressive on a certain level because, like I mentioned, Michael Caine, he played keyboards, he played with Jack DeJohnette. Ronnie, he played with McCoy Tyner. Kenny Davis, he was everywhere. So so that became the nucleus of that record, and I think it was because of their versatility. And
beautiful. Yeah. Did you then tour with that band? I mean,
no.
No, you didn't. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay.
That band never played a gig together.
Really? Oh shit, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean, that's the sad reality of the music business. And actually, I wanted to have Michael Caine on the next record, but that didn't work out. John Esposito, he winds up on the third CD, More Tales to Tell. Great player. We still work together. And but so many records. I mean, think about it. A lot of those Blue Note records you love, and
it was a studio date. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you wind up doing a couple of rehearsals. You go in, and that might be it. And but that also I think that it's been something that's I wanted to avoid in the future. A lot of my projects now, actually, I like to have them develop organically. Let's say I'm working with a musician is working with me, and I say the music's really going great, and I'll kind of be thinking about having a project around them or being a part of. I'm sorry, and that possibly whatever we've been doing live will be the next record. So I'm always kind of thinking like a collaborative effort manifesting with a recording. So when I think when it works out good, it does that, you know. So even myself right now, I have a steady gig in New York at a place called Albert's Bar.
Oh, okay.
And I have organ trio. So I use a number of different drummers and different organ players. But sometimes when I just notice that, oh man, these guys are really gelling well, so I'll try and book those guys more and see if that winds up manifesting as the next record.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. That's the way, right? If we can do it. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
for this music. So.
Yeah, I mean, because what happens is you wind up with, okay, it's time to do a record,
yep.
And then you're saying, okay, we're gonna do a couple of rehearsals, and then we're gonna go in. You're doing that same thing that that I would be doing the same thing that I wanted to avoid from the very beginning. So I just try and make things just kind of develop slowly and record it when it's time, you know, instead of just getting a couple of guys together, rehearsing twice, and then you're doing the record. So
yeah, that's the way. Eric, like on you did Arrival and Prophecy, and then the Dave Holland gig comes, and that's how I found out about your music. I mean, through Dream of the Elders, and then then I researched who you were and what you were doing, and like how did you end up in that band? I mean, it's such a nice album, and of course, Dave's band, Dave is like the master.
Oh, no doubt. It was interesting because I was doing a recording session, and it was in New York City. It was on 14th Street, and it was a 2-day session. And then after it was during the second day, I believe, the leader said, "Hey, let's go downtown, and let's get something to eat. Let's just stretch a little bit, walk a little bit." So we went downtown. I ran into a bassist who told me that Steve Coleman was leaving Dave Holland's band. I said, "Oh, really? Can you give me his number?" So he called me up a couple of days later, gave me his number, and that started this whole.
Okay.
What's that?
Oh, you called then Dave, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean,
wow.
I got the number from the bass player, and so called Dave up, and I said, "Hello, my name's Eric Person, and I'm a saxophonist, and I heard Steve Coleman was leaving your band, and I think you'd be interested in what I do."
Man, okay.
And he was receptive. He was positive. So he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can get together and do some playing." So I said, "Okay, great." And then he said, "I'm gonna call you next Tuesday. Can we get together Wednesday?" I said, "Great, that'd be fine." He said, "Yeah, I rent a place in the city, and we could just do some playing." I said, "Great." So I waited for Tuesday. Tuesday came and went. Never heard anything. So I called Dave up probably that Wednesday, no, Thursday. I said, "Yeah, this is Eric Person." "Oh, hey, how you doing, Eric?" "Yeah, sorry, things got really busy. I know we're supposed to get together. How about next Wednesday?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That looks good." He said, "Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna call you, and we'll get together next Wednesday." Okay, so no call. And I was like, "Okay, all right. Let me call this guy one more time." So I called him, and then I say, "Dave, hey, Eric, hey, yes, man, again, I'm so sorry, man. Stuff keeps popping up." So let's try one more time. So next week, is that good for you? I said, "Yeah." Next week comes, nothing. I said, "Okay, that's it. I'm not calling this guy no more. He's making me look dumb." So I didn't call him. I just said I wasn't gonna do that anymore. So I just went on with my life. You know, I was just like, that's another bad lead. uh, but as I remember, about 6 months later, he called me up and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. You want to do some playing?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I come over your house?" I said, "Sure." And so he brought some music. I played through it. He liked what I was doing, and then he said he was going to send me some music. Now, probably because of what he did before with like saying that he was going to do something and didn't. I called him like probably like a week later, and I talked to his wife, and I said, "Hey, Dave said he was going to send me some music," and she said, "Yeah, he actually going to do that." I don't know if she said he already did it, but she confirmed that he was definitely going to do it. So he did send me that music, and that was a great start to the Dave Holland Quartet, because we used to get together once a month and chat and go through tunes, just kind of feeling the vibe. And then I think we did 3 months of that, and then we premiered the band at the January of 1994. Yeah, and we did a performance at a college down south, and it was great. So yeah, it was a good start. I mean, it was one of those kind of gigs for me that validated my talents at the time. And I learned a lot working with them. It was some things that were new to me as a player. Like working, doing some of the odd meter stuff.
Odd meters, yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, how did you cope with that? And
well, I mean, some things, were no problem. I remember it was one tune that I didn't feel comfortable with it enough where I wanted to record a solo on it. And so he was cool, and then but shortly thereafter I was okay. It was like after it was almost like we did the record, then I was cool. I could have recorded, but when we recorded, I didn't feel comfortable enough that I wanted to record on it. But everything else on that record, like we were doing live and came off really well.
yeah, it's a beautiful.
But yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. When I look at your 90s, that must have been like really, I checked the records I have you on, like, and so much is like from 92 to 97 or something like, there's like the moving right along one, which is like a monster record for me. I mean, I love all those players, all of you guys.
Yeah.
And the Dave stuff, your stuff, you're still playing with Chico, I think, and so it must have been quite crazy for you, right? These 90s.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, because for me, that period from like 92 to about, like you say, like 97, it was a whirlwind of a lot of great records I did with not only Dave Holland, but World Saxophone Quartet.
Yeah.
And Chico, the Chico Hamilton records. I felt like my talents was really exposed well, and I got some really good press out of it. I was actually trying to, make it go to another level. So after Dave's gig ended and the World Saxophone Quartet's gig ended, that's when I started my label and started recording, and I started putting my band on the road. I did a lot of U.S. touring and some different dates in different places, and it was a lot of work. Booking gigs is a lot of work, but I felt like, with my credentials, in a sense, I would be able to get a booking agent, and that turned out to be like one of those things that I was just running into walls, and so I just had to do it myself, and I still do it myself, but I have a different approach to my career now. But I learned a lot from that period. I don't know if you know, after Dave Holland's gig ended, I joined this guy named Ben Harper. He's a great guitarist. He plays in the slide guitar.
Yeah, but I didn't know that you played with him. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recorded a record with him. I'm on 2 tracks. The record's called "The Will to Live."
Oh, wow, okay. I'll try to find
Yeah,
it.
you can check it out. It's some good stuff. I mean, I wrote horn parts. I put together a horn three-man horn section, and I arranged that stuff for live performance. And actually, that's on a DVD called Pleasure and Pain. So that stuff really was filling my time. And then, like I said, I was putting more time into booking my band and getting on the road and stuff. And actually, this poster here.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
I don't know if you recognize it, but that was the first time my band had played in Europe. Yeah, it's the Guimarães Jazz.
Guimarães, yeah, in Portugal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was a great performance and great experience for myself. And yeah, so things had hit a peak for me in the mid '90s, and then I continued it with my own projects. And for me now, I've been trying to do more locally in New York City and the Hudson Valley where I live. And then I haven't been going to Europe a lot lately, but that is on the docket.
Yeah, would be great if you bring a trio or something to Europe. No, it would be nice to see you.
Oh yeah, where are you at?
I'm in Slovenia, in like 2 hours south of Vienna in Austria, kind of like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
former Yugoslavia, so
yeah, I played there with Shannon actually.
Really? Oh man,
Yeah.
Where did you play?
Yeah, I played.
Belgrade,
Yeah, I played. I think actually, when was that? Well, the first tours I did with Shannon was July of '84.
Wow.
And we went to Europe 3 times in 7 months. So
Man.
one of those tours we went to Yugoslavia, and then we also went to Bratislava. And I remember we recorded on some TV show in Bratislava, and I wish I could see that because it was a great performance. So
interesting.
but yeah, it was fun. It was all new to me. My first time in Europe, and working with Shannon, and it was always something new, with Shannon, So
yeah.
Yeah.
And you were really young, right? You were like what, 21 or 22 there with those guys, and like.
Yeah, I think when I joined Shannon, I was 21. Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, that's so young to be on the road. It's like.
And oh yeah, I mean, and for me, it was so much I was learning because Shannon's music was very different for me, but I've always had an eclectic ear. I've always liked a lot of different types of music, so I was able to really fit in with his concept, from the very beginning, And actually, I have a band now I call Simbada, and it's playing the music of Ronald Shannon Jackson. So.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah, so I hope to definitely release something from that group, very soon.
Fantastic. Would be nice to hear that. Yeah, beautiful.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool. Eric, when the new record comes out, please drop me a line so that I can check it out. I mean, and
definitely
would be so great.
Oh, and, most definitely. You're the first one on the list.
But also, if you're gonna come to Europe, drop me a line and we'll get together and.
Okay.
Would love to
make some music. We can make some music. Yeah.
Oh man, would love to. Yeah, definitely. So.
Yeah.
But cool. I'll leave you a nice Saturday. Well, yeah, Saturday. I'm sorry, man. It's like it's 8 p.m. here, and we have a 1-year-old kid at home, so it's like what is going on?
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure, man. It was a great time spent talking to you. I'm glad you
thank you.
Knew a little bit about my history out here, as a musician, and I have a very varied journey in music, and actually, I actually feel like I'm actually connected to a lot of different traditions in the music. You know, having worked with World Saxophone Quartet, and worked with different masters in the music, and you know, working with alongside Houston Person now. You know, I feel a certain connection with even the tradition. You know, playing standards and blues now that I didn't have, let's say 30 years ago. Because actually, you know, at that time, you know, the 80s, everybody was doing, you know, original music, you know. Everybody, I like to say everybody and their mama was going to Europe, you know, but it fostered a lot of newness in the music, you know. And so that's where my music comes out of. You know, it was like working with Shannon, it was totally new music. And then, you know, working with World Saxophone Quartet, that was
how was that like? How was that like for
well,
you
I mean,
with those Hamiots and, you know, David Murray, and like it's incredible.
yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. Actually, once I got with Soul Note, Flavio Bonandrini, he had his ear to what was going on with World Saxophone Quartet, because Hammy Blue was on the label and everything. And he was actually putting my name in the hat. And ironically, I was talking to Blue and just kind of like, hey, how you doing? You know, and so I think that was some level of networking that you know, I never said, hey man, think about me or anything like that. It was just I was just talking to him, and then on the other side, Flavio was talking to him and, you know, saying, hey man, think about Eric, you know, because Blue probably was saying something like, hey man, we're looking for somebody next, because on that record, you know, James Spalding, he actually did part of it, and then I finished it because they said something happened or whatever. But I came in and finished the record. But one of the best things about it was that Hammy had said, hey man, I want you to bring in 2 tunes, you know. So it wasn't like he was like, hey man, just join the group. He said, hey man, I want you to bring in 2 tunes. We're really interested in keeping new music at the forefront. So those 2 tunes, one called Charade and one called Antithesis, were noted by some critics as, you know, giving a good shot in the arm to the group and everything. And I really particularly like listening to those tunes. They did a good job of, you know. But you know, it was a couple of good years of working with them. You know, kind of. I was working with Dave and Chico and doing my stuff. It was a lot of things going on, and then you know, I did the record, so I was happy I was able to document it. You know, without.
It's important,
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, nice. Nice to hear all this stuff. I mean, beautiful, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was interesting, you know. And then actually, from that I started working with David Murray's big band a little bit. He used to do a thing at the old knitting factory, so I did it. He called me to do a few things at that time there. You know, New York in the 90s, 80s, 90s, it really had a nice vibe. You know, it really was a lot going on. It's a lot of, you know, a lot of clubs. It was a lot of energy. It was a lot of, you know, collaborative things going on. It's just different now. I mean, it's hard to convey that to, you know, the younger musicians. They probably don't know how to take that, you know. But being there, you know, having came and been able to join a Ronald Shannon Jackson, you know, a master who was still around, or let's say you could go to a club and you see Woody Shaw, you know, sitting there, you know, talking to Harold Mayburn, and you know, that's the climate of New York I came in. I did a lot of I did a record session with a drummer, and Sam Rivers was the other guy
Ooh,
performing.
really? Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I actually played a set with Woody Shaw out in New Jersey, you know. I played with Joe Chambers,
Wow,
you know.
man.
Yeah, I played we actually did a little bit of recording. That stuff has never been released, but it was kind of informal. It was kind of like a rehearsal / recording thing. I still have the recordings, but and then we did a couple of performances. I worked with Michael Carvin, you know.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah,
You
a
know, wow.
couple of times we did. We actually rehearsed many times, planning to do a
Ooh,
duo project, and we actually it really never manifested. But I my my 10th CD, my 10th was a duo project I called Duo Scope with a great drummer named Shinosuke Takahashi. And I would like to say that the duo stuff I did in St. Louis with Joe Charles, he was a legendary guy. And then with Michael Carvin, kind of led to the duo scope record, you know. I actually did a duo once I went over to Rashid Ali's house.
Oh man.
Yeah, because again, back in the 90s, you know, it would be like you'd be walking down the street or you know, something like that, and you say, I know you're Rashid Ali, right? And you'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, hey man, I would love to play with you, man. Is there any way we could get together? And like, yeah, come up to my house. Here's my number. And that's how it just worked. I mean, it was so much of that happening for me at least that I just, and I was always in that headspace of like, oh, look, I know you. I got your records. You know, we should play together, you know. And so I got a chance to work with a lot of people. I remember I did something with a couple gigs with Michelle Rosewoman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know her? Yeah,
Michelle.
Sure. Yeah, and it was just a lot of John Paul Borelli. You know, I worked with him.
Really? Well, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so I got around. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. All those masters were still alive, you know. So many people in the 80s, you know, the original creators were there still playing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and the thing is, they lived in the city. A lot of guys, if they're still around, like who I mentioned, John Paul Borelli, he doesn't live in New York, you know. So yeah, it's like I would say any musician who's coming to New York now, you know, get your networking chops up. I know stuff is done a lot in you know, like you could go to somebody's website and say, hey man, I'm a musician, I'm new to the city, and you know, I would love to, but it's so much of that, you know, that could be like, oh man, that's, why should I take that seriously? You know, it's, you know, but if you come to people's gigs and say, hey man, I've been following you, I know your stuff, hey man, I would love to get together, that has a bigger effect. You know, if you just personally talk to people and say, hey man, I've been following you, you know, I listen to your records, I know your tunes, or however you want to present it, that's the way you have to do it. Even though we can communicate through emails and texts, or I'm gonna say something good on this post that he put, that's not gonna do it. You have to really just meet people. That's how you get ahead. I mean, it worked in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and that's the best way to do even now. You know? Yeah,
that's so true, man. Yeah, it's personal. It's all about contact in this music, I think. Communication, and you know, that's why we do it, I think, I guess.
That's what works, the personal touch.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Eric, I'll let you know when this is out, and I'll send you a link and everything, and we can share it and everything. So
okay, great. I will definitely do that too.
Cool. Thank you so much again. And take care and stay strong.
You too, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.